Hello and welcome back to the Aquapod. I'm your host Charlie, and on this episode, I sit down with National Coach Ian Wright as we discuss the recent Paris Olympic Games. We'll have a chat about the Games as a whole, the spectacle of aquatic sport in Paris, and the Scottish performances across both swimming and diving as part of the wider Team GB group. Without further ado, let's get into it. So I'm delighted to have Ian Wright back on the podcast. How are you doing, Ian, after what's been an exciting couple of weeks?
Hi, good afternoon, Charlie. It's good to be back on the podcast. Looking forward to having some chat around the Paris Games. It's like I said, busy time. The games finished at the weekend. I was out there the previous week to that to watch some of the swimming events, and yeah, we can have some insight into all that if you like.
Yes, obviously you were lucky enough to get over to Paris as part of your role, and it looked an amazing spectacle from the outside looking in, and for you it must have been kind of an incredible experience. What were your kind of takeaways of the Paris Olympics, and what kind of experience was it like?
Yeah, well, initially I wasn't going to go. It was all looking too expensive. And then ended up getting access to a few tickets through Brad here, one of the Sterling coaches, and myself and Brad went out together for 4 days and managed to catch the swimming there. We obviously had a number of Sterling athletes on the British team, 5 Scottish ones among that. So, I mean, first part was to go and support them and watch their events and see how they were getting on. And that was enjoyable because we got to see Duncan Scott win the 4x200, anchor the team to the gold medal. So that was quite exciting. And we saw a number of other races as well. So really enjoyed it. Obviously, it was super atmosphere, and these things tend to be a bit of a Paris is, some people say Paris is a special place any summer. It's got a good vibe around it, but I think the Olympics just added to that, and the weather was pretty good. There was a vibe around the city when you're just talking to people and the things that were going on, and people were enjoying it. And I think Paris themselves put on a really, really good games, a good swim meet, but also a really good games. It was incredibly well organized without being over the top, I thought. So, yeah.
Yeah, it seemed to wear the games pretty well, I guess, is quite a good way of putting it. It suited the Olympics, I think, and from the rings being on the Eiffel Tower to just the sort of backdrops of some of the events, truly looked amazing. Did it have that sort of feel about it to you? Just something a little bit special that we've maybe not seen for the last couple of Olympics, say.
Yeah, I think so. Like you say, they did it well, but not over the top and not too subtly either. I just thought it was presented well, from the decoration of buildings to the presentation of events within the sporting arenas, to the way they maneuvered crowds in and out of the buildings. It was all done with a friendly touch. You got the impression that there was high security around because you saw police
Hmm.
officers and army wandering around with guns. That's a sign of for safety, but it helps people feel secure that things are okay. And obviously, we know there's been certain events in Paris in recent years that have not been too good, but it went without a hitch, I thought, and it was. They'd done very well. Watching the swim meet, I thought that was executed really well. The venue itself, people have seen the La Défense Arena, big sporting venue or music venue. So it's interesting how they turned that into a swimming venue. Great crowd in there. I think it was. I'm not sure exactly what the final number was, but they were talking about 15 to
Yeah, about
17,000.
15. Yeah.
There was also a few spare seats, but in general, the whole thing was full every session. Morning heats, evening finals were full. I quite liked that they decided to hold the heats at 11 a.m. and the finals at 8:30 p.m. Whatever the reasons for that were, are probably multifaceted, but I thought it was quite good for spectators because it gave you time to get up in the morning and travel around. You weren't on your feet too early, and then you could go in the evening, so spend the day in the city and then go back to the pool in the evening and relax and watch the finals, and then even grab a chance for a drink afterwards if you had, because there was still time for that. So,
yeah.
And it just, those kind of things help the whole experience, for everyone, I think,
Yeah, it's well, we've been to quite a few meets, seeing you more than me, but it's not always great when you're getting up so early in the morning and things like that. And there's obviously reasons for that, but when it's the kind of pinnacle of the sport, it's great to actually have it as, almost a spectator first sort of approach. Particularly with the finals being at 8, half 8 at night, when maybe you would go to a football game at that kind of time at night. It's a little bit more geared towards entertainment, and it certainly appeared that way from home, and it was an enjoyable spectator experience.
yeah.
And
Sorry, yeah, it was very good. I mean, it was a great venue, and it was a lot of people paid a lot of money to get into the venue to watch the swimming, and they were treated to some great sport, as you know. But I mean, it was definitely some seats in the venue were better than others to be in.
yeah, yeah,
If you were stuck in the corner or behind the start of the turn end quite high up, you did feel quite a long way back from the action. You didn't really have a good view of the scoreboard. So it was a wee bit tricky in that sense. So if you were adjacent to the pool on that stand, it was amazing. It's fantastic. It was a great venue to watch it from. You had big screens in front of you as well and two big scoreboards. So you were getting all the info straight to you. And like I say, the music was good. The French crowd, I think it built up through the week, to be honest with you, as it kind of, Marchand was doing his thing. The more medals he got, the more excited the crowd were getting each day. And there was other excellent events going on, and we all knew there was like some incredible swimming sessions there, which we can get into in a minute. But that really kind of built the atmosphere, I thought, through the week. And by the end, it was almost like a party atmosphere by the end of the swimming events. Whereas maybe at the start, it was just a wee bit cagey. You got the sense that the swimmers were, that day one, there were, everyone was just testing out how things were going to be here. There was some expectations that probably people had, but which didn't play through. And then there was speculation about this and that, but there was people doing good things. So I think it took a couple of days for people to get into the swing of it. And get a feel of, because obviously, Tokyo, I wasn't in Tokyo, obviously when not many people were, it was no crowd and completely different. So I think it was back to how the Olympics should be, and I think it just took a couple of days to get into the swing of it, and then everyone was like rocking and rolling.
Yeah, and I know at the start of the week there was a lot of chat about the pool, and is it a slow pool? Is it not deep enough? But by the end of the week, and you're talking about that there, it kind of seemed to build, and actually it built in terms of some of the performances that were going in. There was Marchand, obviously 4 Olympic records and four individual gold medals. We had a couple of impressive world records as well. Do you think it just needed sort of a little bit of momentum behind it before we started seeing people believe that they could swim fast and maybe not read too much into the hype round about the speed of the pool?
I think, yeah, I don't think it was a slow pool. I think that's a nonsense statement to say it was a slow pool. The very first swim that Scotland and Britain had in the pool was a personal best time and a Scottish senior record from Kiana McInnes. So it certainly wasn't slow for her. And that was day one. And, there was speculation, there was things. It was slightly not as deep as some of the World Championship pools that you would go to. There was I think there's quite a lot of camera and other objects on the bottom of the pool that people were saying, they're interfering with with the waves and the drag and stuff like that. So, but then, we do know on the other side, we do know some pools are better than others for swimming in, but you look at the performances, you can't really say it from that pool, and you look at the whole thing across the whole week. There's too many good swims, and even when you compare it to the times from Tokyo and some of the other major events, you go, actually, no, it wasn't. The times are kind of like where they should be, or there or thereabouts. There was one or two events where you thought, actually, this is a bit slower than I was expecting.
Yeah,
But I
like the
think it
100
was because
breasts.
people were expecting something special in every event, and they didn't get it. The men's 100 breaststroke was probably the most surprising one of all. That the times it took to win the medals in that were really not what people were expecting at all.
Yeah, I guess
Um,
so. I guess that's probably the prime example, but still in the semi-finals there was faster times than won the gold medal, and then later on in the week we saw some really quick relay splits as well, didn't we, in the 57s?
yeah,
So it kind of all feeds away from that narrative, doesn't it?
yes, yes, yes. I mean, I think you talk about the world records, and if you believe the story that it's a slow pool, then well, what are you really saying, that Pan Janli's 46 was maybe a 45 point,
Yeah, yeah,
really, in a proper pool? No,
yeah,
I don't,
yeah.
I don't, I don't. I don't think you can carry it in that sense. But if you're saying it's a slow pool, then what are you really saying?
Yeah.
You know, when people are breaking world records, and some people are not breaking world records. Maybe it was just psychology of individuals coming through. Maybe it was the vibe across the week that people were a little bit on the edge at the beginning, and then
Mm.
people were finding their way, and then maybe some others were not doing so well at the back end of the week. Everyone has their own experience. We know from facts over history that typically at a world champs or an Olympic Games, certainly across the main nations of swimming, only about 30 to 40% of swims are quicker than their entry time. It's only about one third. It goes up a bit and down a bit, but it's usually about one third of people do a season's best, or even less do a personal best at the
Mm.
Olympic Games. So that tells you that you don't get everyone swimming incredibly quick. It's just the way it is. And I guess it was in that kind of range. Maybe it was on the low end of that range for some people or for some countries, but it wasn't unusual to expect that kind of outcome.
Absolutely, and yeah, like you mentioned, some incredible swims from GB swimmers, from Dan Whiffen from Ireland, from Pan, like you mentioned, from China as well. What maybe stood out to you from the games as being a particularly great swim or incredible achievement?
Well, if we stick with our local boy first of all, they were the favourites, GB squad, for that 4x200, but there was a job to be done there. It was by no means a guaranteed gold. We knew the Americans were going to be strong. There was a chance other teams would be strong, and as it turned out, the Americans did push
Mm.
them all the way, but they all swam it very well. I think we've got to give a nod to Jack McMillan in the heats
Absolutely, yeah.
of that, who trains here in Stirling, and he did a great split in the heats. He wasn't um, able to swim in the final because of the other four being the top four, as we expected them to be. But he did a great swim in the heat, so I think it should be a nod to him. But then Duncan anchored the team extremely well. You know, um, some people might not swim it quite so well, but he handled the situation really well. And as we know, he had the fastest split of the whole team, of the
Yep.
whole field,
Hmm.
all countries. So that was something, and that was obviously Britain's only gold medal in the pool. So we got to credit that. I think I really enjoyed, in terms of a performance, um, the swim that Bobby Fink did to break the 1500 free world record. The way he went about that. Now you have to have it in the context that he'd already, if you like, he'd lost the 800 to Dan a couple of days earlier, and Dan had put in an amazing swim, like you say. to win that PB. Ireland's first gold for a long, long time, and really good for Irish swimming to get that, and Mona McSharry's medal as well. They had a great meet, but there was a lot of talk after that, we know Dan's in form now. He got the better of Fink in the 8. He's going to do him again in the 1500. He might be going after the world record. That was the speculation on the day, and it actually turned out that Fink out-strategized Dan in the final of the 1500, if you like. He normally kind of hangs with people and then comes back on the back end really quick. But he decided to push the race on, probably at a pace that was slightly uncomfortable for Dan and Paltrineri and the others to go at from the beginning. But he just went, I'm going at this pace. I'm just going to hold it all the way, and I'll see if I can break you. And he did. And that got him the gold, and it got him the world record. And under those circumstances, I thought that was an extremely good swim.
Yeah, it was very gutsy, wasn't it? Watching from home, I was thinking this. Yeah, he's gone out too quick here, probably think.
Yeah, I thought it was good. It wasn't going out crazy quick. It was quick, but it was the right speed. But you were like, it's not totally blasted it. It's just a measured speed here. But yeah, I think I was watching it the first 500 thing, and Dan's just kind of holding back a little bit.
Yeah,
he'll make his move at 600 or 700.
But it never quite happened, did it? He gave it a go around about 500, but it just didn't quite land, did it?
Yeah, it was like for about 3 lengths, you thought, here he comes, Dan's coming now. He's coming. He's picked it up. He's going to hold that because he's usually really good at holding a pace metronomically. But then after about 200 of that, it was like he couldn't get any quicker or he couldn't get any closer. I think just seemed to go a little bit more again, about 900. And then you're like, hey, this is done. This boy's going. And it became a question of, could he hold the world record line? And I think a lot of people were really pleased that he broke the record for a number of reasons.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It's one that's been marked to go down for a while. So I think there was a lot of support for that.
When Sun Yang broke that record in London, I think it was. I mean, people were like amazed that he could go that quick. And obviously there's been some controversy around him, but then in the last few years you've seen 4 or 5 people start to get close to that time, and you start thinking, well, it's not that. That's where you need to be now,
Yeah.
And in that event,
it wasn't a shock really to see it go, was it? It was its card had been marked for a little bit of time, and there was a few in that conversation. Dan obviously being one of those as well. So certainly one of the more interesting races, and there was quite a few, in fairness, across the schedule, which I certainly enjoyed watching.
It's not that long ago that people would be, and it's still great to do it, but breaking 15 minutes in a 1500 for a man is like it's the standard, right? But normally that would have got you in Olympic finals, world finals, all sorts, and not that long ago. And now you're talking 14:45 is really where you need to be if you want to make the final. 14:45 is the new 15 minutes, really. And that's just it's great for the sport, but it shows what maybe better design training programs can deliver.
Absolutely. Maybe just kind of touching on the rest of the Scots that were part of the GB squad on the swimming side. We obviously mentioned Duncan there, who anchored home the 4x2 gold, got his individual silver medal in the 200 medley as well, behind an Olympic record for Marchand. He obviously had an incredible week, and there was quite a few others that performed really well, either with season's best or close to kind of that and personal best as well. How happy are you with the kind of performances across the board of the Scottish group?
Well, I mean, overall, we're definitely happy. One's got us brought back 2 medals, and we had others making finals in relays or individually. Katie Shanahan obviously was at her first games, and she made 2 individual finals, the only British female in the meet to do that. Duncan was the same, the only British male to make 2 finals individually. So you got to credit that, because just making a final is not not an easy task in any event. And so for Katie to do that was good, because she had a little bit of a disrupted preparation a number of weeks ago, but even so, she's probably thinking, could it have been a wee bit better? Because I know she might have been thinking her times could have been a bit closer. She had a couple of swims, especially in the 400 IM, that were quicker than that this year. But the 200 back in the final was really a top-notch swim. She almost got the Scottish record. She was right on it. So it's good to see again. You saw her do what you try and coach all the kids do, is you swim your heats, you want to be a bit faster in the semi-final, then you want to be a bit faster again in the final. And so that progression, it was good to see her do that. Duncan, like we've mentioned, I thought we got the gold in the relay, but his silver medal swim was a classy performance. Really, it was
Absolutely.
a well swum event. Going against, everyone's going to be cheering. Everyone's cheering for Marchand, and he's the big favourite. But then you've got a strong field behind that, and it's like you're going to have to swim well to get a medal here. And he did just that. He swam extremely well, the best he's swam that race since Tokyo, that's for sure. And it's 200 free again. People are like, oh, he just came fourth so close. I mean, it's incredible, right? 15 100s separating the first 4. So you could swim it again and you'll get a different result. And it's just maybe the agonising way sport goes, and small margins. You can't really account for that. You can't say, oh, I did this wrong, I did that wrong, and he did this right, and it's just like so close.
It's the nature of the event, isn't it?
Yeah, and
in particular the 200 freestyle.
And again, it wasn't. But you cannot say he had a bad performance there, because again he progressed heats to semis to finals, and right on a season's best time, I think.
That's right.
One of the very few 144 swimmers that people do. So no knocking that at all. Ken McInnes, like we said, great for her. She showed that she wasn't overawed by the crowd or the experience. Going out there as the first swimmer in event 1 for GB, she pops in from an outside lane, knocks out a PB and a Scottish record to get through to the semi-finals of the 100 fly, which she wasn't guaranteed to do. And then she was maybe a little bit unlucky in the 200 fly, because she just ended up 9th, just a fraction away from being in the final. So again, she put in a decent swim there in the semis, but just one person too many ahead of her. And I suppose Lucy and Lucy Hope, Kathleen Dawson were mainly there in a relay context, although Kathleen's on the heats of the 100 back. But really her events were the mixed relay and the women's medley relay, and Lucy was in the 2 freestyle relays for the women, and they were in finals for that. So again, the Scottish swimmers were part of the final. Now, they might say, they'd hope that their individual sprint times were a little bit quicker, but you can also credit them for being where they were. They were the people in the moment in the arena in the final. So you can't knock them for getting themselves into that position. So on the whole, pretty good. I think the GB team overall will be satisfied, but probably thinking there's 1 or 2 chances that we might have missed. There was a couple of agonising fourths, but Max Litchfield, I was very close again, and very. It's a shame for him. He's unlucky, if you call it that way. But he swam a British record and came 4th this time, so couldn't ask again. Hopefully reflecting, he goes, well, that's my best I could do. I did it in the moment. So no regrets,
Yeah. If you're him, that's it's tough. But like you say, he's done a personal best, the fastest British man of all time in the event. So you can't really say much further than that. Just one word quickly on Anne Gerard Evans as well, who came 6th in the the 100 breaststroke final on the women's side. Really impressive performance again through the rounds, and just been a great season for her. Obviously, not Scottish, but part of the University of Stirling programme as well, and great to see her doing so well.
Yeah, I mean, she hasn't come from nowhere because she's been on the scene for a long time, but she'd had a bit of a gap prior to this season, a bit of an off time. Come back from America, was kind of in between programs, not swimming that well, and just decided to come up here to Scotland and train in Stirling. And it's gone from well, it's just got better and better across the 10 months that she'd been here, and ended up with a place on the Olympic team, and then goes to the games, makes the final, progresses through the rounds, comes sixth, a few tenths quicker, and she's in the medal positions, right?
Yeah.
So you hope she's looking at that going, well, another 4 years and maybe I can be right up there. Of course, there'll be other people thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
But she's put herself in a position where she should be realizing she's world class in that event.
Mm-hmm.
And she did a good relay split as well in the medley, the fastest ever breaststroke split by a British woman, I think, in a medley relay. Yeah. So I'm sure she's over the moon with it all. And no doubt, I haven't had a chance to speak to her yet, but no doubt she had a great time and enjoyed it all.
Yeah, definitely. Certainly a positive performance, and there was quite a few of them scattered around as well, with eyes to the future. I know you mentioned there that the swimming group might not be fully, well, they'll be satisfied with the the 5 medals, but actually overall for the kind of aquatics group, if you take into account diving and artistic swimming as well, it's been an excellent games, and the most diving medals ever for GB, and the first ever artistic swimming medals for GB at an Olympics, equaling the overall aquatics total of Tokyo, despite that kind of slight drop off in the swimming medals. And we had a diver as well, Grace Reid, who performed really well, getting to the final of the 3 meter springboard, where she didn't quite perform to where she would have wanted to be, I don't think, in that final, but still great to get there, and strong performance overall.
Yeah, it was. I watched that on television. That Grace's final. That was good to see her in there. I'm not a diving expert, but I know the British team done very well. They were seeded to do quite well. It wasn't a shock, especially in the synchro diving events. They were ranked to get some of those medals, so they'll be pleased, but not surprised. I think it's just a sense of British diving is pretty much the second strongest diving nation in the world now.
Yeah,
behind China. Right. I mean, China dominated, as we saw, but they're incredible. Britain is very much the number 2 diving nation, so people expect Britain to be up there in the diving now, and that's good to see. And like you say, 11 aquatics medals across the 3 sports was a good return, and that will be a strong message coming back to the sport and to funding bodies and organisations, and say, well, yeah, aquatics is right up there. It's doing a good job, and it was very good that Britain got a medal in the artistic. That will help that sport no end, I would have thought, in terms of focus and bringing it to the attention of more people. So I think it'll be good. It's a good overall outcome for British Aquatics. GB is the governing body name, but I mean, we just like to say it's swimming in the UK, right? It's a good outcome. And as we just mentioned, Ireland is doing well as well. And in the pools, so it's good to see that our part of the world is kind of flourishing in aquatic sports when it's not always done that every time.
Just kind of lastly, Ian, before we wrap up, there'll be a lot of young people who watch the Olympics. Now, maybe it was swimming, maybe it was diving, maybe it was athletics, whatever it was, who have maybe been inspired and either want to take up the sport of swimming, or they want to take it to that next level, whatever their goal is. What would your kind of message to them be, and taking on board some of the performances and some of the values that our athletes stand for, um, into their own training and way of life? What would your sort of message to them be?
Um, well, okay, look, there's a couple of things there. If you're talking about people who are going to compete in the next Olympic Games or even the one after that, those kind of people are already in the sport. They're already in the system. They're already probably been identified as good athletes, and they're on the way towards that. And if they want to make it, obviously you turn up to training every day and you work hard, right? But it's generally what seems to separate the ones who are really successful from the ones who don't quite get there. And you see this in different sports is it's mindset. It's the attitude and behavior. You can get into details of what that specifically means, but it's not the talent, it's not the physical talent at that level that separates the great from the good. It's the mental and the psychological strength. Sometimes it's a desire to win. Sometimes it's a willingness not to lose, and have that in your mind every day. And that passion and drive burns you every day, and it's got to be important to you. You can set everyone sets a dream and a goal and goes for it, but some people go for it better than others. So you got to be willing to have that. Something has to separate you from the rest, and it's where you are in your own head that is what will usually do that. So if you're a strong-willed person, you got that determination. You can face up to challenges and you deal with them. You don't get freaked out by things that go wrong. You overcome setbacks. The type of growth mindset that we've been talking about for a long time with some of them. That's a choice, right? Those things are choices you can make every day, and they're not fixed with you at birth. There are things that you can do every day that will separate you out as a winner. Perhaps not from losers, because that's unfair, but from people who are in the same sport as you, but you might be able to. What's the edge you're going to get from them? Well, that's what it is. If you're talking about people much younger than that, the wee 5 or 6-year-old watching the TV and thinking, I want to be like that one day. Well, they've got to go find a good club and a good coach is the first thing, and they're going to need probably good parents or support family around them that are going to help them along that journey, because it's extremely difficult to do it without a club, a coach, and a supporting team around you. So you need to find them, or hope that you have them to begin with, and then make that step into that world and just go for it from there, and believe. If you believe in it, who knows what you can achieve.
But it is possible, and someone on the team, Duncan Scott, proves that. He grew up in Scotland. He went through Scottish programs and still trains in a Scottish program, and is achieving what he's achieving. So
yeah, look, these people who were on the team for Scotland, they didn't have luxury all the way through. They trained in small pools as well. Duncan spent a lot of time training in a small pool in his age group career, 20-meter pools, small lane pools at school. She wasn't quite on the team, but we all know the story of Cara Hanlon, who's British champion and Scotland's best breaststroker. She trained in the islands in a 12-meter pool. So you don't need the luxury to get to the top. You need desire, and you need hard work, and you need to pursue it for a long time, because it doesn't come quick and it doesn't come easy. And you're right, these swimmers have all been through our programs. They've been through the junior academies, into youth squads and junior teams for the most part. We do get some who come at it a bit later. They spring through a bit later. So the message is also really important to say, well, you don't have to be winning at age 11 or 12 in order to make it when you're 18, 19, 20. And in fact, most people who are winning at age 11, 12 don't make it when they're 18, 19, 20. It's only about, I think it's only about, maybe it might even be less than 10% of those who are ranked in the top 100 ever in Britain at age 12 are still ranked in the top 100 when they're 18. So people drop out for all sorts of reasons. So if you're one who can stick in and you love the sport and you want to do it, whether it's diving, swimming, or artistic, then there is that opportunity for you. These are not superhumans. These are normal people who've worked hard and been at it a long time. They could have been in other sports. They could have been just regular people who didn't do any sport, but they found a way. Something led them into the pool. Some of them gave up other sports to pursue swimming. Like Duncan was on the verge of going down the tennis route at one point when he was much younger, but he decided to follow the swimming path. So you just can't tell, what's going to happen. The point is to stay in and keep going.
Absolutely. I think that's quite a nice way to end that there, Ian. Appreciate your time again, and I'm sure we'll catch up at some point soon. Great to hear there from Scottish Women's National Coach Ian Wright about the past couple of weeks at the Paris Olympics. Now, eyes will now turn to the Paralympic Games, which again will take place in Paris at the end of August going into September, where 4 Scottish swimmers will be taking part. Keep an eye on our social media and website over the coming weeks as we begin to cover those games as well. Until then, make sure you keep up to date with all our podcasts, and you can do that on Spotify, Apple and YouTube. But until next time, thank you very much.